So, generally when most people think of the paper makers, they think of Japan. Why don't more people know about the paper making that's going on in Korea? Are you the only one carrying on this tradition here in the United States?
At this point, for a while I was, because the Americans who had gone before me and learned, they retired from doing it, and but then a few years after I got back, I did teach a student who then went on to also go to Korea and learn. So she's in San Francisco or Sacramento, and she's doing it as well. But for me, it's been really my life's mission in terms of not just making it, but writing. I wrote a book about it, and teaching and spreading information. And I think the reason that Korean papermaking is less known than Japanese papermaking is kind of the reason that everything in Korea is less known than Japan. First, it opened later to the rest of the world than Japan did. So Japan had about 100 years head start on all of the East Asian countries. And then second, they were colonized by Japan. So the Japanese didn't want the Koreans to have their own anything. They wanted Koreans to speak Japanese and read and write Japanese and adapt Japanese culture, because the idea was that Koreans were very backwards and crude and needed to be cultivated like the Japanese, which is a very typical colonialist and imperialist attitude, that the people that you encounter are not as good as you and you are improving them. But the other thing is, I think that Korean, to really export a culture, you need to share the language, and that's happened really well and effectively for Japanese. And part of that is that their Japanese is a little more easy to pronounce by English speakers. So, but Korean is not so easy. So I can say Hanji, and maybe some people can say that, but then there are other things that I do that are harder to say. And so I think I would like for it to get to a point where I can just say Hanji and people will know that's Korean paper, instead of people thinking that, having no idea. Like, to get to the point where, if I say sushi, everyone knows what that is.
Yeah.
I would like that to happen with Hanji.